The grand chamber of the Galactic Council glittered with artificial starlight, casting prismatic reflections across the assembled representatives of over 300 species. Alan Brooks adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform and straightened his shoulders. After 15 years as Earth's chief negotiator, he had developed a reputation for patience and compromise. Today would change that forever. "The position of Earth remains unchanged," Brooks stated, his voice calm but firm. "The proposed resource allocation unfairly restricts human mining operations in neutral sectors, while the defensive limitations would leave our colonies vulnerable to the very pirate fleets the Council claims it cannot control." High Counselor Zextrol fluttered his translucent wings in clear irritation. The insectoid diplomat had been pushing these regulations for nearly 3 standard years. Human concerns have been noted and accommodated to reasonable extent. Zextrol clicked through his translator. "The Council has reached consensus. These regulations serve the greater harmony of galactic civilization." Brooks nodded slightly, as if considering the words. The chamber remained silent, all eyes and sensory appendages fixed on the human. They expected another round of objections, followed by reluctant acceptance. That had been the pattern for decades. "Then Earth must respectfully withdraw from these negotiations," Brooks said. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Dralaxian representatives' facial tentacles curled in confusion. The stoic Maverian delegates broke their traditional silence with surprised clicks. "Clarify your statement, Ambassador Brooks," demanded Zextrol. "If you require additional consultation time with your government." "No consultation is required," Brooks interrupted, something he had never done in 15 years of diplomacy. "I am authorized to inform the Council that Earth is withdrawing from these talks effective immediately. Furthermore, we are suspending our participation in all Council regulatory frameworks pending comprehensive review." The chamber erupted in overlapping translations and exclamations. Brooks remained still, his expression neutral as the chaos swirled around him. "This is merely a negotiating tactic," said Venlar, the Aldebaran representative. "Humanity has too much invested in galactic trade networks to withdraw." Brooks allowed himself the smallest smile. "That is a common misconception, Counselor Venlar. Human worlds have been preparing for self-sufficiency for some time. We came here hoping for equitable partnership. The Council has made its priorities clear, and they do not align with human security or prosperity. You risk economic isolation," warned Grell Suto, the Mercantile Guild spokesperson, his green scales flushing dark with alarm. "Perhaps," Brooks acknowledged, "but we calculate that risk is less severe than accepting these terms." High Counselor Zextrol raised all 4 arms for silence. "Ambassador Brooks, surely your government understands this action undermines decades of integration efforts. What does Earth hope to gain from this?" Dramatic gesture. "This isn't a gesture, High Counselor. Starting today, human ships are withdrawing from joint patrols. Our diplomatic outposts throughout Council space will close within 30 standard days. We will honor existing contracts with individual parties, but will not enter new agreements under Council frameworks." Brooks gathered his data tablets and nodded to his small staff. "Earth remains open to fair negotiations should the Council reconsider its position. Until then, we wish you peace and prosperity." The human delegation moved toward the grand doors. Behind them, voices rose in argument and confusion. Several diplomats rushed to communication terminals, urgently contacting their governments. As the doors closed behind them, Brooks' assistant looked up worriedly. "They don't believe we're serious." "They will," Brooks replied. "Eventually." The orbital docks above New Geneva hummed with unusual activity. Cargo ships, diplomatic vessels, and personnel transports arrived in steady streams from across Council space. Nancy Porter, station director, watched the traffic patterns from her command center with growing concern. "Another diplomatic shuttle from Proxima Station, Mom," reported her assistant. "That's the 5th one today." Porter nodded, her eyes tracking the sudden influx. For 3 days, human ships have been quietly departing their posts throughout the galaxy. What began as an oddity was now unmistakable. A coordinated withdrawal. "Any word from Earth Central?" she asked. "Only the standard directive. Process all returning personnel expeditiously. Prepare for increased capacity." In the station's main concourse, returning diplomats, scientists, and military personnel created a constant buzz of conversation. Many looked confused, others determined. Some families reunited with tearful embraces, having been separated across different alien worlds for years. "They didn't believe me when I packed up my office," said Dr. Kevin Mitchell, chief cynobiologist from the Rigelian Science Academy, to a colleague. 15 years of research, and they thought I was taking a vacation." He shook his head. "The Rigelians still think this is an elaborate negotiating tactic." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On Centauri Prime, Ambassador Susan Miller formally delivered notice of Earth's withdrawal from the Mutual Defense Treaty. The Centaurid foreign minister's facial ridges paled to ashen gray. "This is most unexpected, Ambassador," he said, tentacles twitching nervously. "Our peoples have cooperated for 70 years. And we value that history," Miller replied diplomatically. "Earth is not closing doors, merely reassessing its position. Direct bilateral agreements may still be possible outside Council frameworks." Meanwhile, in the secure depths of Luna Command, Earth's military leadership gathered around holographic displays showing fleet movements across known space. "Operation Homeward is proceeding on schedule," reported Admiral Jack Winters. 83% of our off-world personnel are either en route or already back in human space." Defense Secretary Frank Donovan studied the shifting patterns and the security situation. As expected, multiple reports of confusion, some minor attempts to detain our personnel at Council facilities. Nothing serious yet. Winters highlighted several sectors. "We're maintaining minimal presence in these strategic areas until the last civilian transports clear." "The Council still thinks we're bluffing," Donovan observed. "Most of them. Our intelligence suggests the Exilarians and Draconians understand we're serious. The Exilarian ambassador has requested a private channel." Donovan considered this. "Interesting. They've always been more pragmatic than the others. Keep the channel open, but make no commitments." Back at the Galactic Council headquarters, an emergency session descended into chaos. The venerable diplomat Krizov, who had negotiated the original Earth admission treaty, addressed the flustered assembly. "You fundamentally misunderstand humans," the ancient alien warned, his translucent body pulsing with emphasis. "Throughout their history, they have demonstrated willingness to accept short-term loss for long-term advantage. This withdrawal is not impulsive, it is calculated." High Counselor Zextral dismissed the concern with an irritated wave. "No species can thrive in isolation. Economic necessity will bring them back to the table within a standard month." Krizov's body darkened in the equivalent of a sigh. "Humans survived and developed in isolation for their entire history before we discovered them. I fear you underestimate their self-sufficiency." As the Council debated, humanity quietly continued its exodus. Military vessels slipped from joint patrol routes. Research teams archived their data and departed shared laboratories. Trading ships completed final deliveries and were routed to human space. Within Earth's territorial borders, shipyards that had been quietly expanding for years now buzzed with round-the-clock activity. New defense platforms moved into position along border sectors. The message was clear to anyone paying attention. Humanity wasn't bluffing. They were preparing. The Zarn trading post hung in the void between two spiral arms of the galaxy, a sprawling collection of habitats and docking structures that had served as a neutral commercial hub for centuries. Merchant Overseer Galactic surveyed the unusually quiet main trading floor with mounting distress. "Where are the human merchants?" he demanded of his assistant. "The Sirius Consortium always brings their agricultural shipments on the fourth cycle. No human vessels have registered arrival plans." Overseer, his assistant, reported nervously. "Not just the Sirius Group, all human trading companies." Galactic's four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep concern. Check the inventory of human-produced goods. The results made his stomach sacs constrict. Medical nanites, specialized alloys, terraforming enzymes, all products only human manufacturing could provide, were depleted to critical levels. Prices had already doubled since word spread of the diplomatic withdrawal. Similar realizations were occurring across the galaxy. On the luxury resort world of Paradisio, Chef Vexnar stared despondently at his empty storeroom. Earth coffee, chocolate, and wheat had transformed his restaurant into a 5-star destination. Now his suppliers could only shrug their upper appendages apologetically. Perhaps the Council will resolve this matter quickly, one supplier suggested without conviction. In the Galactic Council's Economic Affairs Division, analysts presented increasingly alarming reports. Human-operated mining facilities in the Kuiper Belt have tripled their defense systems, noted senior analyst Jermod. They continue operations but are stockpiling extracted materials rather than shipping them to processing centers. Director Pelter clicked her mandibles anxiously. And the markets? Destabilizing rapidly. Futures contracts involving human goods have increased 300% in value. Several minor trading houses have already collapsed. If this continues, major financial institutions will follow. At the Central Military Coordination Center, alien commanders watched with growing alarm as human warships systematically withdrew from joint defense operations. The Cygnus Patrol Corridor is completely unprotected now, reported Defense Coordinator Vril. Without human vessels, we lack sufficient coverage to deter raiders. Fleet Commander Zexka growled low in her throat. Their withdrawal is strategically coordinated. They're pulling back from areas where their absence will be most immediately felt. Are they punishing us? Asked the junior officer. No, Zexka replied grimly. They're demonstrating their value. On Earth, the Global Security Council convened in their underground Geneva facility. Representatives from all human worlds and colonies gathered to review the situation. The Accelarians have offered a separate treaty, reported Intelligence Director Kate Wilson. They're willing to recognize our full territorial claims in exchange for continued access to our biotechnology. Defense Secretary Donovan nodded thoughtfully. And the Council? Still deadlocked. 3 factions have emerged. Those who believe we're bluffing, those who want to bring us back at any cost, and those who see this as an opportunity to renegotiate the fundamental power structure. Prime Minister Patricia Walsh surveyed the room. The demonstration phase is working as intended. We maintain our position. No negotiations with the full Council until they acknowledge our core demands. Across human space, preparation continued with methodical efficiency. Civilian defense drills intensified on colony worlds. Military vessels ran combat exercises near territorial borders. Mining operations expanded in previously untapped regions within human jurisdiction. Back at Council headquarters, reality was finally setting in. High Counselor Zextrol called an emergency session. The humans have not responded to any communication attempts, he admitted reluctantly. Our intelligence suggests their withdrawal is not merely diplomatic but economic and military as well. Representative Krill from the Commerce Guild projected disturbing figures. 37 essential technologies and resources available only from human sources are now unavailable. Medical facilities in 6 sectors report critical shortages. Transportation networks designed with human participation are operating at reduced capacity. From his seat in the observer section, veteran diplomat Krizoth watched the growing panic with sad resignation. He had warned them. Humans were not like the other species who joined the galactic community out of necessity or fear. They had joined by choice, and now they were leaving by choice. And nobody had prepared for a galaxy without humans. The distress signal from the colony transport played through the Council Emergency Command Center. The desperate voice of Captain Zrenval echoed in the chamber. Under attack by 3 unidentified vessels. Our shields are failing. We have families aboard. Requesting immediate assistance from any patrol ships in the Vega corridor. The transmission ended with a burst of static. Commander Reltic turned to his subordinates, mandibles tight with stress. Where is the nearest response vessel? Nearest Council patrol is 3 hours away at maximum speed, replied his tactical officer. This is the fourth attack in that sector this week. The fourth we know about, Galactic corrected grimly. Until 3 weeks ago, human rapid response ships maintained constant patrol in that corridor. Across the galaxy, similar scenes repeated with alarming frequency. Shipping lanes, once secured by joint human-alien patrols, became hunting grounds for pirates and outlaws. Minor species without significant defensive capabilities found themselves suddenly vulnerable. On the agricultural world of New Eden, Colony Governor Eric Rogers surveyed the newly installed defensive grid. The colony had relied on Council protection protocols for decades. No longer. Power output stable across all platforms, reported his security chief. The new HFY defense satellites can cover our entire northern hemisphere. Rogers nodded with satisfaction. And the southern? The 5th Squadron returns from Earth next week with the remaining equipment. Good. Priority installation for the hospital and food production zones. Similar preparations continued across human territory. After decades of integration with galactic society, humanity was systematically ensuring its self-sufficiency. Earth shipyards worked at full capacity, producing vessels for defense and trade. Agricultural worlds increased production. Research facilities focused on alternatives to alien technologies. In the council chambers, representatives from 17 vulnerable worlds presented an emergency petition. Our worlds face existential threat without protection, pleaded the Alosan delegate, her normally melodious voice strained with urgency. The human withdrawal has created a security vacuum the council forces cannot fill. High Counselor Zextrol attempted reassurance. Emergency patrols are being redistributed to cover essential routes. Redistributed from where? Interrupted the Tellarian ambassador. Your forces were already stretched thin. That's why human ships covered so many sectors in the first place. From Earth, Defense Secretary Frank Donovan addressed a global security briefing, his weathered face projected on screens worldwide. For too long, humanity carried a disproportionate burden in defending galactic transportation routes while receiving minimal decision authority, he stated firmly. Our new military doctrine prioritizes human security above all. We will defend our borders, our colonies, and our interests, and only those. The address continued with detailed explanations of new defensive positions and capabilities. Military analysts across the galaxy watched with growing concern as the scale of human preparation became apparent. In a private meeting room far from the public council chambers, 5 senior representatives met in unprecedented secrecy. The situation deteriorates daily, said the Xalarian High Minister. 3 more banking houses collapsed yesterday. The Orion Medical Consortium reports critical shortages of human-produced pharmaceuticals. We must re-establish contact, urged the Centauri delegate. Whatever their terms. Their terms will be excessive now, interrupted the Draconian ambassador. Each day we delay strengthens their position. The Arcturan elders' crystalline form pulsed with anxiety. Our intelligence indicates massive fleet movements near their territorial borders. Are they preparing for conflict? Unlikely, replied the Mervarian observer. Our analysis suggests defensive positioning, not offensive. They demonstrate they can protect themselves without us, not that they intend to attack. The Xalarian nodded slowly. Then the message is clear. They survived without the galaxy once. They can do so again. Outside council space, humanity continued its methodical consolidation. Supply chains reconfigured, defense grids activated. Diplomatic channels remained silent despite increasingly desperate council communications. In Earth's orbital command, Admiral Beth Hansen watched the galactic situation displays with quiet satisfaction. How long until the Council formally requests new negotiations? She asked her intelligence officer. At current deterioration rates, less than 15 days. Hansen nodded. And our response? Already prepared, Admiral. Prime Minister Walsh has approved the new terms. The power vacuum expanded, and with it, Humanity's leverage grew. The Grand Council Chamber, once a model of galactic unity, had devolved into factions. Representatives clustered in small groups, conversations tense and postures defensive. High Counselor Zextrol struggled to maintain order as accusations flew across the chamber. The Solarian delegation has been conducting unauthorized communications with human representatives. The draconian ambassador's voice boomed through the hall. While the rest of us honor the Council's unified approach, they pursue separate advantage. The Solarian High Minister rose with dignified calm. We made no secret of our intent to preserve our centuries-old relationship with Earth. The Council's approach has clearly failed. More voices joined the chaos. The Centauri representative demanded to know why critical information about human defensive buildups had been withheld. The Mercantile Guild accused the Security Division of downplaying economic impacts. In a private diplomatic facility on Luna, Prime Minister Patricia Walsh met with representatives from 6 species traditionally marginalized in council politics. Unlike the Grand Council Chamber, this meeting proceeded with focused efficiency. Earth proposes a new framework for cooperation, Walsh explained, gesturing to the displayed agreement. Direct bilateral treaties without council oversight, full sovereignty recognition, mutual defense without centralized control. The Betelgeusian ambassador, representing a species that had struggled for fair treatment for generations, studied the terms carefully. You offer what the Council has denied us for 2 centuries. We recognize independent partners, not subordinates. Walsh replied. Earth has experienced the Council's hierarchical tendencies firsthand. One by one, the representatives signaled agreement. A new alliance was forming outside traditional power structures. Meanwhile, across human space, adaptations continued. On the colony world of New Madrid, Governor Claire Peterson inspected the newly expanded agricultural domes. 3 more harvests and we'll be self-sufficient in all essential foodstuffs, reported Agricultural Director Kim. The new hybrid strains have exceeded expectations. Peterson nodded with satisfaction. And the manufacturing complex, operational next month. We'll be producing our own medical supplies by quarter's end. Similar developments repeated across human territories. Colonies once dependent on galactic trade networks systematically secured their essential needs. It wasn't isolation, it was insurance. Back in Council space, economic disruption intensified. On the luxury world of Elysium, hospitality magnate Greg Vorn faced bankruptcy as his supply of human goods vanished. Synthetic alternatives simply don't satisfy our clientele, he lamented to his financial advisors. Earth wines, textiles, arts, they've become status symbols precisely because they cannot be replicated. Across dozens of worlds, businesses dependent on human products or tourism collapsed. Trading houses that had specialized in human goods closed their doors. The ripple effects spread through interconnected economies. In the Council Economic Division, Director Pelter addressed the Emergency Committee. 17 major financial institutions face imminent collapse, she reported grimly. The disruption has surpassed our worst projections. A representative from the Galactic Bank squirmed uncomfortably. Could we offer humans preferential terms? Exclusive development rights in disputed sectors. Too late, replied Intelligence Coordinator Vex. Human diplomatic channels report they're forming independent agreements with multiple species. The Rigelians signed yesterday. The Proximan Federation this morning. The Council unity fractured further when 3 minor members, the Tothsetians, Denabians, and Fomalhaut Collective, announced temporary withdrawal in protest of the Council's handling of the crisis. The Council's refusal to acknowledge legitimate human security concerns has created this disaster, stated their joint communication. We will not participate further until substantial reforms are implemented. On Earth, Foreign Secretary Oliver Clark reviewed the latest intelligence with satisfaction. The Solarians have accepted our preliminary terms, he informed the Security Council. They're the largest council power to break ranks so far. Defense Secretary Donovan nodded. And the others, falling in line one by one. The Council scheduled an emergency session tomorrow to formally request our return. Prime Minister Walsh smiled slightly. Perfect timing. Inform Ambassador Miller she should prepare to present our comprehensive terms. The fragmentation of galactic political unity was complete. A new order was emerging, one where humanity's position would be very different. The Emergency Council session began with unprecedented security measures. Guards from 6 different species patrolled the perimeter as tensions reached dangerous levels. Inside the Grand Chamber, representatives shouted over each other, while High Counselor Zextrol repeatedly struck his ceremonial staff against the floor. Order. The Council will have order. Zextrol's voice strained against the cacophony. The Draconian ambassador rose to her full intimidating height. The Security Division has concealed critical information. Our analysis shows 40% of protected trade routes are now vulnerable to piracy. 3 minor colonies have already been raided. Because you refused to commit additional vessels, countered the Rigelian delegate. You knew human ships maintained those patrols. Accusations flew across the chamber. The Economic Affairs representative presented catastrophic projections while the diplomatic corps defended their failed strategies. Unity, the foundation of the Galactic Council for 8 centuries, was dissolving before their eyes. Enough. The voice cut through the chaos. Diplomat Krizov, seldom speaking in full sessions, commanded attention through sheer moral authority. This display confirms everything humans have claimed about our dysfunction. We face the greatest crisis in Council history, yet we bicker like hashlings. Silence settled uncomfortably over the chamber. The humans have presented a simple choice, Krizov continued. Meet their reasonable demands for autonomy and fair treatment, or watch the galactic order we've built collapse. Your pride has already cost too much. High Counselor Zextrol's wings fluttered in agitation. The Council cannot capitulate to ultimatums. What precedent would that set? A precedent of wisdom, Krizov replied calmly. Humans requested equitable treatment, security guarantees, and fair resource access. All things we claim to provide all species. Your refusal revealed our hypocrisy. In the observation gallery, representatives from 27 worlds rose in united gesture. Their spokesperson stepped forward. The Rimward colonies formally announce our support for human demands, she declared. Furthermore, we request the same protections. If denied, we too will seek independent arrangements with Earth. The Council erupted again, but with a different tone. Fear had replaced anger. The fracturing was accelerating. On the protected human colony of Newterra, Commander Steve Kelly received urgent updates from intelligence sources embedded throughout Council space. He transmitted the information directly to Earth's Security Council. Multiple defense fleets are reporting critical operational failures, he informed the assembled leadership. Without human technical expertise, their integrated weapons systems are degrading rapidly. Defense Secretary Donovan nodded grimly. As expected. How long before complete failure? Major systems will collapse within 15 standard days. They've lost access to replacement parts and maintenance protocols. Prime Minister Walsh considered this information. And the Council meeting. Complete breakdown, ma'am. 3 more members have announced temporary withdrawal. The remaining factions cannot agree on an approach. Walsh nodded decisively. Then it's time. Authorize Ambassador Miller to accept their request for negotiations, but with our full list of demands. No compromises. Back in the Council chamber, the emergency session stretched into its 14th hour. Exhausted representatives finally reached consensus on one critical point. The situation was untenable without human participation. High Counselor Zextrol, his pride visibly wounded, formally proposed accepting all original human demands regarding resource rights, defense autonomy, and decision authority. The Council formally requests Earth's return to galactic participation under revised terms addressing their security concerns, he announced, the words clearly difficult for him. When the response arrived, it was not what anyone expected. Ambassador Lisa Chen, recently appointed as Earth's chief negotiator, appeared via secure communication. Earth acknowledges the Council's proposal, she stated calmly. However, circumstances have evolved considerably since our initial requests. Our return now requires comprehensive reforms to Council structure, voting procedures, and enforcement mechanisms. She transmitted a document that caused visible shock among the leadership. These terms are impossible, protested Zextral. You demand fundamental restructuring of 8 centuries of governance. Chen's expression remained neutral. The choice remains yours, Counselor. But be aware that 17 former Council members have already signed bilateral agreements with Earth. The old order is already changing. As the transmission ended, the ancient chamber fell silent. The crisis had reached its turning point, and every being present knew that nothing would ever be the same. The historic signing ceremony took place not in the traditional council chamber, but in Earth's Geneva complex, a symbolic shift that escaped no one's notice. Representatives from all major galactic powers gathered under the transparent dome, the stars visible above a reminder of what united them. Ambassador Lisa Chen stood at the central podium, the newly drafted Galactic Charter displayed behind her. Beside her, High Counselor Zextral looked diminished, his once proud posture now carrying the weight of difficult compromise. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning, Chen addressed the assembly. For too long, the galactic community operated on foundations established when humanity was barely space-capable. Today, we acknowledge a new reality, one of true partnership among equals. The terms of the new charter had been negotiated over 3 intense weeks. Earth's position, strengthened by its demonstrated self-sufficiency and network of bilateral agreements, had allowed it to secure concessions unimaginable months earlier. The revised council structure eliminated the privileged position of founding species. Resource allocation would now follow transparent protocols rather than historical precedent. Most significantly, military and security operations would respect sovereign decision-making rather than centralized control. As Zextral affixed his signature mark to the document, a subtle murmur ran through the alien delegates. For many, this was their first time on Earth, a deliberate choice that reinforced humanity's new standing. In orbit above, the newly commissioned Defense Station Unity monitored approaching and departing vessels. Commander Ryan Foster observed the traffic patterns with quiet satisfaction. First joint patrol departs in 6 hours, his executive officer reported. 8 species participating, including humans. Foster nodded. Under the new protocols. Yes, sir. Sovereign command structure, shared intelligence, but independent operational control. Perfect. Exactly as intended. Across human space, the careful unwinding of defensive postures began. Colony worlds maintained their newly developed self-sufficiency, but reopened trade on more favorable terms. Earth's diplomatic outposts throughout the galaxy gradually reactivated, now with enhanced authority and security. On the trade hub world of Centauri Prime, human merchant vessels returned to eager reception. Warehouse manager Greg Phillips supervised the unloading of the first Earth goods to reach the station in months. We're charging triple what we did before, he remarked to his Centauri counterpart. The alien's facial ridges rippled in resignation. And still there are waiting lists. Never realized how dependent we become on human products. A lesson learned on both sides, Phillips replied. We discovered our value, and you discovered our resolve. In the Council's reformed headquarters, now relocated to neutral space rather than the homeworld of a founding species, the new Security Committee held its inaugural session. Earth's representative held one of 5 permanent seats, a recognition of humanity's essential role in galactic defense. Defense Secretary Frank Donovan addressed the Earth Security Council, summarizing the transformation. In 4 months, we've achieved what decades of traditional diplomacy could not, he stated. Our defensive capabilities remain independent. Our resource rights are protected. Our voice in galactic affairs is equal to any. Reformed as demanded. The veto powers of founding species eliminated. Transparency protocols implemented. The weighted voting system replaced with sovereign equality. And our bilateral agreements remain in force alongside the new charter. We've maintained our independent relationships while rejoining the collective framework. The best of both approaches. Throughout human space, citizens adjusted to their new galactic standing. The brief period of semi-isolation had revealed both human strength and the mutual benefits of cooperation. Far from weakening humanity's position, the withdrawal had demonstrated their essential role in galactic stability. On the observation deck of the Geneva complex, veteran diplomat Alan Brooks, whose dramatic exit had triggered the entire crisis, watched the stars alongside the ancient alien diplomat Kryzoth. "Was this your intent all along?" Kryzoth asked curiously. Brooks smiled slightly. "Not exactly. We hoped for fair treatment. We prepared for isolation. We achieved something better than either. By being willing to walk away," Kryzoth observed. "Sometimes," Brooks replied. "That's the strongest negotiating position of all." Above them, the first ships under the new Joint Patrol Protocol departed Earth orbit, symbols of a galactic order forever changed by humanity's readiness to leave and its terms for return.